Okay, got it. So it's like going on, it's like I'm looking at the YouTube screen. Done. Okay, good. And then I'm gonna need to turn this down so it's not getting, I'm gonna mute my YouTube. Okay, I did it. Hi, blessings, welcome to our masterclass. And Julie will be our guest today. And I really wanted, I wanted her to come and speak about, in particular, grief that we have in, like, if we've lost an animal that was really dear to us, or maybe we have, I mean, they will pass, it's like maybe you have an animal in your life that is older or sick. And, I know in working with my clients, how much it really matters when we lose dogs, cats, animals that have meant so much to us in our lives. And so I'm so happy to have Julie on because she brings a different perspective, one that I don't, it's one that we don't often keep in mind because it's a different way of relating to the animal world. I think this has been an evolution for humans too. We just watched this movie, my husband and I pulled up the name so that I would remember what it was for you. The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. Has anyone seen this movie yet? It was done in 2021. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of grief in it, right? So just, I told my husband as we're both like bawling watching it, if I had known, I don't know, no, but it's really, really good, especially around, Louis, and he's just a different kind of guy, and he's an artist, and he really is, because he's so eccentric and sort of different. I really related to him, and so did my husband. It made sense down the line that he and his wife would develop this really close relationship with a cat. They named him Peter. And at that time, because takes place in the olden days, I don't know what the year was, but it was, electricity was just, right? Like this was around the time of electricity coming in. And so, and he was, fascinated with electricity but he had this relationship with this cat that was different. People didn't have cats in their homes. And him and his wife muse, it's funny in the film, like, oh, maybe one day people will, and I think now. So our relationships with animals have evolved over time and continue to. And I'd love to hear in the chat if you want to just mention who's here, like, tell me, like, why are you here? What's your intention? Do you have a dog, a cat? Just tell us a little bit. I'd love to, in the room here, in the Zoom room. Yeah. So do you have a cat? Do you have a dog? Do you have another kind of animal?
My brother has
what brings you here?
Has a dog.
And as I've worked with clients over the years, I just got a dog over a year ago. And but up to that point, I'd had cats, and we had dogs when I was little. My grandparents did. I never had a dog, that I took care of. But as a grown up, having grieved the loss of, 2 cats, and realizing like this is significant. Now that I have my love affair with Phoenix, I'm like, this is significant. I mean, when and then my clients, I'm thinking of a woman who, single mom, right, sons, grown, empty nester, and then losing her, her beloved canine, and how devastating it was. And there's just not a lot. We don't really talk about it that much. It's like kind of like, oh, how sad you lost your dog, or oh, how sad you lost your cat. But like a lot of people don't totally get it. And I think that those of us, especially who have some, you know, kind of trauma around relationships with our animals can be some of the only ways that maybe we felt unconditionally loved. There's no shame in that. That's like a reality for folks. You know, maybe you can relate to this. Your animal being really the only being that you just like let your guard down around, or you feel really loved by. And so, yeah, so we're going to be just talking about this from a more kind of spiritual perspective, if you will. And particularly, I wanted to uncover the 3 essential rememberings our animal family want for us to help us move through the grief of their loss. So there's this aspect that Julie is going to be speaking into of their animals, you know, as we kind of sense and can feel, but being here to help us in ways that we haven't really maybe thought about or taken time to really understand, but that there's a living relationship happening even after animals have passed that we can tap into. And then we'll also unmask some of the misunderstandings that cause us to stay stuck in regret. Because a lot in my clients, when they've lost animals and it's, you know, been a deep loss, I mean, gut wrenching, you know, there's often a lot of regret woven in around, you know, just ways that we feel bad, you know, just like with humans, when we lose humans too, we're just like, oh, you know, like with my dad, oh, I wish I had just gotten to know him more, you know, I just wish I had. And it's like, yeah, you know, yet there's a bigger picture, you know, around my relationship with my father, who passed like, you know, 6 years ago, where I have still a living relationship with him. But it requires me to open my mind and my heart in this way. Also, if your animal is still with you, but maybe they're sick or geriatric, and you're wondering how to stay out of the black hole of sadness you drop into when you think about losing them, this class will support you as well. And I think anyone who loves animals will be served by what we uncover in this class. So I'm so glad you're here. Let me go back to the chat and read. Julie, you might want to just take a look at some of these, because Julie, this is her work in the world, and you know, you can. I always like to screenshot, you know, so that she really can get, you know, get cozy with what you all are experiencing. Good. Here we go. I lost my foster dogs, Victoria. I lose my foster dogs. I'm so glad you're here, Victoria. I was hoping you would be here too. I lose my foster dogs all the time when they get adopted, and there's always grief and joy. Yeah, totally. Holly, so glad you're here. I have 3 cats. We are strongly connected on a spiritual level. Yes, good. It's so nice to come into a community that's you know, understands that, had a client. Anyway, it goes deep for folks, and go deep for us, the spiritual connection. 3 dogs, yes, Anna. 3 dogs. I didn't know you had 3. Michaela, hey, I lost my little dog last year. His name was Marley. Yeah, I've since adopted 2 more dogs and keep them closer than anything. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. So glad you're here, Michaela. Deborah, I'm worried about a stray cat I had been feeding and just fell in love with him. I wasn't able to take him with me. Yeah, when I moved, I've been in so much grief, guilt, and worry about him. Yeah, dear. Yeah. Anna, I lost my Chihuahua, Babita, at 15 years. A year and a half ago. I'm really close to my son's dog, Bernard, and my daughter's dogs, Jarvis and Artemis, and 2 cats, Gob and Cash. Don't you love, like, these are such cool names. And pets, typically, I just love, like, you know, we come up with such cool names for animals. Artemis, I love Artemis. That's who's on my arm. Michaela, Marley taught me how to love, how to be open and accepting to love. And as we come into community here, just read the chat and, you know, kind of sense your connection, because you're here for a reason, right? We're all called here, no mistakes. And so, you know, let yourself really receive what you're here to receive. And allow yourself to receive whatever is nourishing about coming into community in this way. Right? So there's just even that, you know. So I want you to sense that. I'm here to connect with this group. Yes, Tina, Karina, and the amazing Julie. She has helped me through the loss of a beloved family member, Jolly, and gave me messages passed through the ether from Jolly. Set my mind at ease. That's, yeah, so, right, because when Julie receives messages from the animal world, and similar to, you know, yeah, she's a channel. Well, you know, and I think about some of my relatives, because I don't, this isn't me, but some of my relatives really find a lot of solace from speaking to people who can communicate with, say, my grandpa or my dad, or people who have passed on. And so my hope was too, that you too would receive some relief from what the animal world wants you to remember through Julie. Set my mind at ease in the realizing that Jolly is bigger than just my lost animal, but an important angel helping others. Yes, yes. Deborah, and part of my concern is if I had a contract with him, I didn't fulfill. Good, okay. So we're gonna take some time at the end for Julie to offer some channeling, you know, so do stay, don't miss that. Also realize that this is, you know, this is what Julie does for her livelihood. And people, you know, it's a very valuable gift and service that she offers. So we want to respect that. And she will be offering, for those of you who stay, I say this because, you know, it's like, you know, I want to encourage you, right? It's like, you want to know what's coming at the end. So, you know, you have reason to stay. So for those of you who stay, Julie is going to offer a gift of her time for you to have just some one-on-one with her around anything related to this. So, and that's true too for those of you who are going to watch this on the replay. We'll put a link below the video, and we'll put a link in the YouTube that's recording now that has no description right now because I just started running it live. I had the idea right before I came on. I'll just throw this on YouTube. So I'll put the description in though, it'll be there. It'll be there when it gets there. Yeah. Let me see, Holly. See, aren't you glad you came live? Holly, Julie helps me constantly with my animals and others I know. Among other things, Julie is amazing and a fantastic friend to me. Yes. Julie, to everyone, maybe about 200 people know about me and my capacity. So you are brought here because you are special. Yes. Jolly is here. Babita is here. Marley is here. Chico is busy, not here. Ozzy is in the house. Thank you, Julie. So, and Julie has, you know, experience. I want to talk to you about Chico because I think it's really helpful for folks to hear your experience on the human level, having lost an animal really dear to you. You have a wealth of experience with animals. Like animals have been in Julie's life since the get-go. So, you know, this is her dharma. This is her calling. She has this gift that was given through an injury that she had to her. So she didn't used to be able to do this. And, you know, who knows? I don't know how she doesn't know how long she will have it. So, you know, it's kind of, it's so we'll talk a little bit about that too. It's an interesting story. Phoenix, I'm gonna let Phoenix and my dog, she wants to come in. She's on the other side of the door. But let's take a moment, as I wanted to do, introduce this and welcome all of you and kind of find out what brings you here. And now we'll like really just kind of arrive, like kind of seal the sacred circle, so to speak, or anoint this as being the opening, the beginning. If you want to close your eyes, you can, or just keep them open with a soft gaze. Let yourself really come into your body. I say come into your body, they're just words, but it's always fresh, always new. It never gets old. This coming into your body, feel your spine, allow its natural integrity to arise. So you feel like a straightness of spine that's not efforted as much as it is just coming into the spine, remembering you have a spine, embodying your spine. And no effort required. You can actually just sense what your body being at ease, maybe 5 or 10% more, would feel like. And you can tap into kind of the energy level of your body right now, and what kinds of feelings you might be having. And whatever you're aware of, Phoenix loves her squeaky toys. Whatever you're aware of, you can just let it be. The heart never wants to be fixed. It just wants to be felt. A lot of the healing that we do inside of the Radiant Circle is around learning and remembering to allow our hearts to feel what they feel without right or wrong. Feeling what it means to breathe into your chest. And to stay a few moments with the feeling of the breath as it expands the front of the body. What else do you notice about your immediate environment? Tune into what you hear. Tune into what you taste. What you touch. What you smell. What you feel. You can't hold any of it. It's constantly changing. But you can be in touch with it. Letting yourself receive what it is that you're here to receive. And, just sensing into your heart's intention. Let the question be fresh. What is it that I want to feel? Allow the, ease or peace or connection or relief or love or whatever is arising for you as what it is that you most want to feel. Just allowing that to kind of, you don't have to know the answer. You just let it arise. We'll take a deep breath in, hold at the top of our inhale. And sip in a little bit more. And let it go. And again, deep breath in. Hold, sip in a little bit more. Let it go. And one more like that. Sip in a little more. And let it go. So you can, as you open your eyes, the invitation is to allow your vision to take place as you're in your body. Embodiment, right? For those of us who are have bright head centers, embodiment is really a lot of our work is in the descent and the bringing of awareness and energy back down into the body. And so, let yourself receive the refuge of embodiment. Yeah, being all the way in your body, just not as much space to second guess yourself. It allows you to be more fully you. All right, good. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Julie here. I'm going to add a pin so she is with me. And I'm going to say too that I'm a mom and it's Saturday. So there's going to be background noise on my end. Welcome to my world. We have like the hot backyard in the neighborhood, because we have this big old trampoline. So there's and my office has a separate entrance. But it's right open to the backyard. So there's kids coming in and out and in and out. So you'll hear name call, bah, bah. So thank you for your patience, and maybe you can relate, or you can just kind of laugh with me and enjoy it. And then of course Phoenix with her squeaky toys. So she's with us too, and she likes to bark and play with the kids. So you'll hear some of that going on. Really, really glad to have you here. Oh, Tina, look at your. Oh, I love it. Anna, Deborah, Candace, just want to say hi to everyone again. Holly, Anna, Michaela, Victoria, Harry. Oh, it's good to have you here, Harry and Penny. Yay. Okay. And those of you who might be watching on YouTube, welcome to our Animal Grief Masterclass with Julie Evans, the animal communicator. She's so rad. And, something that as I've gotten to know Julie and, we've worked together and I've seen her business, get more clear and expand. I recognize, as I work with my own clients, and I was talking about earlier in this, how much it really hits hard for those of us who especially those of us who, really feel a lot of nourishment from the unconditional love and acceptance animals bring to us. Those of us who have trauma, relational trauma, it can be hard to let the guard down. It can be hard to relax. And animals really facilitate, help that along, in a profound way. So I thought I'd love Julie to come in here and talk about, because from her perspective, she has something to offer us in the healing or in the grieving process that I think is really special and useful, and relieving and all of that. And before we dive into kind of what I was calling the essential rememberings, and what I'd mentioned earlier in the intro to this class when we first started, I would love for Julie, tell us a little bit about your relationship with animals growing up, because I think that's and then I want to just briefly touch on how you developed this capacity to hear the animal world. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you and animals growing up.
Okay, I grew up on.
Oh yeah.
Did I do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good now. I couldn't hear you, but I can now.
Okay. I grew up on what was called a hobby farm, which means it doesn't earn money, and surrounded by dairy farms also. So yes, there were cats. Yes, there were dogs. But everything had to have a purpose. That was my father's rule. It had to have a purpose. So the cat's purpose was to mouse, to keep the mice down, right? The dog's purpose would be to guard the property, right? The rabbit's purpose were to be eaten. They were, and the term was butchered. We had chickens. They were to be butchered and eaten, butchered and put in the freezer. Now, those of you that have only been to a grocery store to get your chicken, there's quite a process before it gets wrapped in that plastic. It has feathers, it has a head, it has blood, it is a living being like we are, right? So my family would butcher their own chickens and butcher their own rabbits, right? So from little on, I dealt with death, little on. And my father would scold me. He would say, do not name them. They're not pets. But I loved all animals. I loved them all. So I remember I named a rabbit Timmy. It was a male, and most males do get butchered. Even if you eat cheese, guess what? In order to get that milk, that cow had to be impregnated. If she had a boy, that boy gets butchered. He doesn't go on to live. Now, I do eat cheese, but I also know this, okay? So most of the boys, so Timmy, I came upon, and my father would, they try to sneak it in because they knew I was like, oh. So I came upon him and behind the shed, and Timmy had blood on his fur. So it was, the necks would be broken. That's the quickest way. And I just turned around, but I just actually had to stuff it because it was the way of life, and nobody was going to send me to counseling to deal with Timmy's death. It was like, okay, Dad was trying to tell me, don't get attached to these animals. We're going to eat them. Okay.
I want to just say here, I love that, like, this is a point where, this is part of why, I think this is such an important conversation, because this way of thinking about the purpose animals as having a purpose, and that's sort of it. And it kind of, relating to them through that lens. It kind of like, it makes it makes the deep feelings that we have when we lose animals you know, it can cause, I think, our grief to really stick because we're not given permission from ourselves or others to really like grieve, because it's like, you know, it's not, yeah. So thank you for just reminding us too, if we really think about it, this has been the way we've been taught to relate to animals, is like, what's their purpose? And that's pretty much it.
Right. And that they're not family.
Yeah.
You know, family is family. You have to be human to be family. Susie the goat, she could not be family. But guess what? Susie the goat was family to me. And when
Yeah.
I would come home from college, she would come running. She was family. And when I would be upset about something, I would go and I would sit out by her and talk with her. And I'd sit right in her pen and I try to read it like a magazine, because this was back in the 70s and then the 80s. So there was no internet or smartphones. And she would try to eat the magazine. They eat trees, so they eat paper.
Yeah. I always wondered about that, 'cause going to petting zoos, you know, when I was little, and, you know, the goats would eat everything and they would eat paper. And I thought that was so weird. Yeah.
It's a tree. But she was my sister. I didn't have sisters. I had all brothers.
Yeah. And
Uh,
you know, I want to mention this too here, just keeping in mind like our audience. And, you know, I think about remembering this with the animals that we have that are alive. There's a lot of healing that can happen when we allow ourselves to feel that good feeling we have with our animals, you know, like when we're petting them or even just kind of listening to them breathe. But you know, letting ourselves be aware that you know, just the being with animals in that way is nourishing and healing. Bringing mindfulness to it, bringing awareness to it, can amplify the healing that animals give us around relational wounding and relational trauma. And so, you know, just as an aside for those of us who have animals in our lives, to really, deepen, let that marinate. When you're petting your dog or you're petting your cat or you're just even watching them or looking at them. So you've had this more, let's say, spiritual connection or heart connection to the animal world. Can you tell us what happened for you when you were able to, tell us about this development of your capacity to decode the communications from you know, animals that are both alive and who have passed on.
mhm. So being around the animals, I I could always sense a yes or a no. I'd ask a question, I could sense a yes or a no. My ducks liked it better when I spoke in German. Different animals like different languages. Um, so I knew they were understanding me. Maybe not a complex paragraph, and I could sense the answers, but I couldn't hear them in English or German. Okay, that didn't come till after I hit my head. Um, and as some of you know, I was a CPA. I'm still licensed, but I can't see a spreadsheet, so I can't forget it. So I was in accounting, and that's what I did for a living. And pets were pets, like you all. They weren't my living. So after I hit my head, I could start to hear them in English, Spanish, and German. So they're giving me the information in the way that I can receive it. Now, when I found out I wouldn't be able.
So just to clarify, so it's like, the way I understand it, right, it's sort of like telepathy. Like you kind of can hear the way that they communicate non-verbally. You're able to kind of decipher it. Is that right?
Well, actually, it's easier than talking to humans because it just pops right in. And it's things that I cannot know. Like I'm dog sitting now. So a neighbor 4 houses away, her dog, he keeps biting on something on his paw. And I'm like, I got the word wart. Now, I didn't know dogs could get warts even. She's like, yeah, he has warts. I'm like, wow, this capacity still amazes me. So I literally hear the word.
Yeah. So it's like there's this, I've always had a sense that animals are more in some ways than we think about them, and this is pointing to that. I also think about, if those of you who listen to Abraham Hicks, or it's kind of like Esther Hicks, right? She gets the and then she talks, like she just gives voice to what's coming through. And so Julie, and it's like, yeah, you're like the best person to be watching your animal you could think of, because you can hear, you can get messages from them that yeah, like we can't ordinarily get. I wouldn't get, but you can. Yeah. So I would love for you to tell us about Chico. And could you tell us about who Chico was for you, and what it was like as a human, kind of what that felt like for you, losing Chico.
Oh, so I take in senior dogs. That's what I did when I was working as an accountant. So every year and a half, I was putting down a dog, because I would take them when literally nobody else wanted them. Like they had to go outside 8 times because they have an issue. And nobody wants to take them outside 8 times in the Midwest where it snows, and or they're biting, they're snapping because, well, they're, they have cataracts, they can't see. So Chico was my 3rd senior dog, actually. So Chico came after I hit my head. And then he started talking to me, and I'm like, and the first word was Spanish, and it was a swear word. So I knew it wasn't me, and it wasn't feminized with the at the end. It was the male version. So I also knew it wasn't me. And what came to mind is he was my best friend. For the 2 years we were together, he was my best friend because we chatted.
Who can relate to that? Like, I'm just curious, like, who can relate to feeling like your animal is your best friend? Just like, you could, like, whatever, raise your hand or something, or yes in the chat. Like, yeah. I'm just curious. Yeah. Just to see, like, yeah, who can relate to that. Yeah. Keep going, Julie.
Yeah. And as you can know, when transitioning, the nice word is transitioning from one career to another. The word that came into my mind was losing my career. Losing my career, losing my money, losing my home, all of that goes along with this type of transition, right?
Yeah.
He was there.
Who losing the book. To having that kind of transition, like, yeah, like losing your job, having to transition, like any kind of transition, because there's grief in that as well. But I'm just curious who can relate to that. I mean, that kind of landed for me in a different way when you said that. So I'm wondering if there's other folks here. Yeah, who can relate to, like, starting again, beginning again, not choosing the begin again, not choosing it. Because there's something, Julie's like, anyway, yeah, the way you've moved through this and continue to move through this is remarkable. Like, your mindset is incredible. Like, she's that was something that struck me the first time I met you. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about Chico.
So Chico started talking to me, and like a new friend, like a new best friend, right? And he didn't hold back. His personality was not one to hold back. And remember when I explained to him, no, I can't smell that. Like what you're smelling, I can't smell that. And he's like, that's why you're so stupid. And I'm like, and he's like, why would the big dog in the ground create something that was smell blind? So I got like, okay, big dog in the ground's new to me. Smell blind's a new word. And I'm like, I don't know, but he did. The big dog in the ground did, because I'm here and I'm smell blind, and so are the rest of the humans. You know, and he's
Smell
like, well,
sign.
how do you get your information? Because they smell the crotch of any animal or human to get their information. Everything's in there. What you ate, your age, whether you're pregnant, not pregnant, your cycle, everything's in there. Whether you're upset, whether you're not upset, it's all in the crotch. And so he's like, how do you get your information? I'm like, Facebook. I'm like, you know, it's like, you're right. That's why we're stupid again, because I don't. And then we went on to have the discussion of like, well, what happens if you smell the crotch? Like if I were to try, you know, and I'm like, they pull you off. I was like, oh, really? So these are the kind of discussions we had, like just open discussions. And I would post some of it on Facebook and I write it down because I'm like, I got to put this in a book. You know, I mean, this is like, oh my God. And then even big dog in the ground, big dog in the ground, not in the sky, in the ground. Like, who's big dog in the ground? It's like big dog in the ground's big dog in the ground, stupid. So, you know, so the best that I could come up with was like, okay, it's like our God. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's just my human trying to figure it out, but it's like, it's the creator of everything, the big dog in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Through there, like, and you know, it's interesting to me too, is this intuition, like one thing I've learned from having Phoenix, I could say this from Metta too, because Metta's our cat, but Phoenix hangs out with us more than Metta does. But like she has no second thought. She is one with her instincts, you know, like until she's not, you know, I think until, you know, because they get trauma too. Like Julie helps people with animals to have trauma, right? Because like, you know, like one time a ball went into the corner, and those of you who have animals, like, you know, you can have, you know, this maybe has happened with them too, but the ball went into the corner. Oh, good. Param's here. I'm so glad he's here. I wanted him to be here. The ball went into the corner when she was a puppy, and it knocked down a picture. Because sometimes I like to put pictures on the floor, like in the frame. It knocked it over and it scared her. And she still remembers that. So when the ball goes in that corner, she won't go get it because she's afraid. And I was like, wow, they do learn and they're afraid, but they are very responsive to their nervous systems, to their intuition, to their bodies. And a lot of our wounding takes place, you know, around we leave our bodies, right? We go to the head center for refuge, hence Facebook, right? I get my information from Facebook, like from, you know, we've conceptualized and we've lost our hearts in that. Yeah, that was Param. I want to say, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. He has Winter, who is older, or, you know, just, you know, has had some health issues. Older might not be right, but definitely health issues, I know. And so Chico, and then losing Chico, what was that like for you? What was that like for you, Julie?
Well, there you go. There aren't words. So you all of you that have put down an animal or lost an animal, there aren't words. We don't have English words for this. We don't even have a ritual. I was raised Irish Catholic, and there's 4 days of mourning. By the 4th day, you're done. You're like, I just want to go back to work and have, you know, but we don't have anything for animals, and we don't even have words. I don't even have a good word. It's just, yeah, hi, Phoenix. Okay, I will, Phoenix. Phoenix said, tell him about tree time. Okay, I will. So the animals call it tree time. That's what the animals call it, tree time. They don't mean climb a tree. They don't mean play with a tree. They mean go under a tree and let go of their body. And then another animal can come and eat it, like a mountain lion would come and eat a puppy or dog.
So they don't have fear of death.
No, none. That's what they, yeah, they,
Like,
none.
imagine, how, like, so I want to talk to you, I called it this, I don't know if this is the best way, but I think so. When I talk to you about this, Julie, when you talk to your clients, when you're helping them through grieving, grieving and, around the animal that they've lost or the animal that they're losing. People often have fears and regrets. And there's a lot from the animal perspective that I think it's helpful for us in our, as we go through this. What would you say are the things that animals really want us to remember to help us move through the wordless grief of losing our animal? Like, because you tell me things, I'm like, gosh, that would be so helpful for people to remember. I wish I'll write it down, like, to tell my client who's losing their dog. So I wanted to have you come on here and just, help us. What do the animals want us to know? Because animals from the other, or maybe, if there's someone in the chat here who has an animal that they've lost and they want to receive like just something to help that they want you to remember, so that, it helps to actually ease our own pain and grief. Like knowing that the animal doesn't like fear death. Animals don't fear death. That they have a different relationship with death. What else, do animals want us to remember here, Julie?
Well, they're just dropping the body. And they know it because they have a whole animal spiritual network with those in the body and outside the body that work together. So they might have a fear of going to the vet because they've received painful shots there, or they associate that smell with pain, but they don't have a fear of like death. And it actually is just a transitioning for them. It's a transition. The spirit leaves the body. The body is now tissue, which when I grew up, we ate the tissue. We ate the rabbit. I didn't. Because Karina knows that whole story. They said, if you don't participate in butchering, then you don't eat the meat. And I said, fine, I don't eat the meat. And then I would lock myself in the bathroom the days that it was happening. So they couldn't even like force me to help. It was like, physically get to me. So it's a transition. They leave the body. Now it's tissue. It's just tissue. Like a plum is a plum. It's a bunch of tissues. It's a bunch of organic tissues. So now it's organic tissue. So they're still there. They're still in your house. Jolly has come and told the new matriarch what to do. Ozzy still wants her bowl filled with a few pieces of food, even though they're not in the body. So they just transition. And
Jolly and Ozzy are animals that have passed on from folks who were here, like Tina had Jolly, and Ozzy,
Holly, yeah. And so they get other jobs. I've had 2 clients where the pet became an elephant. So they transition. They'll leave that body. Now it's just tissue because it doesn't have the energy of a living being anymore. So it's tissue. Like when, when we pluck the plum off of the tree. Okay. So that spirit goes and they can be given another job. Like my Chico within 3 weeks had another job. I'm like, Chico, they're like, he's got another job. I'm like, it's only been 3 weeks. They're like, well, he's a leader. We got to get him back out there. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. So they can go and be, if you believe in reincarnation, in another animal. They usually don't come back as a human because we are actually less evolved than the animals. That's my point of view from talking to them and them talking to me. Our telepathic abilities have been buried, etc. Theirs are very much alive. So Tree time is time to drop the body and leave the tissue behind and take the spirit, and the spirit expands to fill the whole room. That's what happened when Ozzy dropped her body. And I do want to say that what you may feel in your household as a loss may be the loss of the pain. Because I had been in Ozzy's household and I had slept on Ozzy's couch and woke up to her like right above my head. Ozzy was in pain. She was 16 as a cat. She was in pain. So when she left her body, she was still there, but the pain wasn't. So the energy of the pain was missing in the house. So I just want to make that clear to some people when they're like, oh, I can feel her missing. What are you really feeling missing? Maybe if it was an elderly or someone with cancer, you're missing that energy. But she or he is probably still there with you.
It's a missing of that physical body. You know what I mean? Like, I know with my dad, it's like a missing of his voice, for example, you know, like the physical listening of his voice, or like his body. Like you know, yeah, it's interesting, right? I can still hear him. But then like a part of my mind's like, that's not really him. You know, right? So it's like, that's what you talked about. We've buried our intuition. And I thought that was interesting. Did you, when you guys were hearing that? I think that there's a lot to that. A lot of my work, you know, it's like a learning to listen to a part of our experience, or a part of ourselves, or, you know, that we're not used to invoking or listening to. And animals just have this direct connection. It's not buried at all. They're very connected to it. Yeah. What else would, what do you notice, Julie, in your work with folks, that they tend to, you know, the word forgiveness comes to mind. Like, what are some misunderstandings humans have about animals and death that could help be a relief, you know, for them? Yeah. Because some people carry, like, for example, like this guy watching a cat was cat sitting for somebody, and the cat died on his watch, and the cat was acting kind of weird, but he didn't know what to do. Right? There's an example. It's not my client, but I heard the story told. I've heard the story told before from another teacher who was talking about one of their students, and I've never forgotten it. You know, and this person carrying a lot of guilt and shame. Right? Deborah, for example, kind of sharing, you know, what had happened with an animal in the chat earlier. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? What do the animals have to say about that?
Yeah, and what the animals have to say is that the contract was up. It's that simple. The how doesn't matter. Now, what I suspect with that story is tree time was when the family went away, which is why it happened when there was a cat sitter. Because they don't want to drop their body with us around. They want to go under a tree by themselves. They don't want to be around their family. That's part of how they function. When it's time to drop their body, they go off away. So oftentimes we think a coyote ate them, or, you know, things like that. And it's like, no, they just went under a tree or a bush and dropped their body, and it was time. So it was tree time. There was nothing you could do. Absolutely nothing that person could do. period. We think we're so powerful. We are not. Oh, I could have saved the animal if I had done this. You aren't that powerful. And their contract was up and they decided it was tree time, and because your family was gone. No, you couldn't stop it.
Yeah. Anything else? Like, I'm curious. Tina says they also live in the moment they don't hold grudges. Good. Here's a question. What about an animal that is in decline and only has a few months left? Okay, so good, Param. I'm glad you're asking. This is about winter, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering, Julie, if you could even tune into winter.
Okay, winter, what's going on? Oh, too much problems. What problems? Oh, too much problems. Oh, and I'm feeling pressure right here. You can see on the camera. Too much problems. Where can you show me where you are? Kind of a green tree. Okay. But still doesn't tell me whether it's North Carolina or Southern California. It doesn't tell me. So winter, too much going on, too much worry, too much. Are you worried? No, my person is very worried.
What does winter want Param to know? Like what could, too much. Yeah. So let's like, I'm curious around that.
Winter, do you have something to say to Param? Stop going all, and the words are nuts, crazy over this stuff. Just and it's like I'm hearing in my head, enough already, but not really loud. It's just like she's saying it in her head, enough already. I don't know if that's referring to her or something else in life or whatever. I mean, and this tracks because when I had Kieran, and that good Irish name, he was a ginger, right? And he was deaf. So I changed his name to Kieran. He couldn't hear me anyway. And he was a rescue, and I had him for 5 months. And sometimes the most expensive dogs are the ones that live the shortest. And so he had surgery and blah blah blah, and his lungs and everything were clear, and okay, we're good. And 3 months later he was filled with cancer, but he didn't know it. That's the thing, people, we hear cancer and we're like, oh my god, and the whole family goes, oh my god, everybody's, oh my god, you could die. Yeah, guess what? We're gonna leave our body eventually. So okay, but and everybody was like, oh, she just got him, and the humans, and I'm like, he doesn't know it. He doesn't know what cancer means. He knew he had trouble breathing because his lungs were half filled up with cancer. I took him to the vet. They call it pinked him up. They pinked him up with oxygen. They gave me a week's worth of steroids, which were for me, not for me to take, but for me to get used to the idea of putting him down because he had only half his lungs functioning. So without the steroids, he was not breathing. They couldn't take a while. Anyway, but he didn't know it. He had whatever food he wanted. He had a week worth of steroids, and then I took him in and I call it the happy juice. And then they bring him back to me and I'm like, oh, this dog I could take home. He's breathing. Everything's fine. Well, yeah, he's on some, I call it the happy juice, whatever the vet gives him. And then the next thing was to stop the heart, which I was there with him, and to exit the soul completely out of the body. And they were like, do you want to sit with him? I'm like, no, he's not here. I could sense that he wasn't here. And he basically was like my fur coat. He was tissue and fur. So they took him away. And when I got home, his harness, because he loved to go in the car and for walks and was very social, and he would be at like a block party by himself without me, but other people would take care of him, and he'd be in other people's Facebook pictures I didn't even know. And this was all in the 5 months he was with me, right? So his harness fell off the wall and fell on my foot. He was with his harness. That's where his spirit was. He was back at my place with his harness. Then of course I cried because that's where he was. But
you know what, I want to mention this too, and then Paral mentioned something in the chat. And then I want to make sure, Julie, that people have your link, because we're going to open up the floor to if someone else wants to receive a message from Julie, or if someone else has a question. But Julie is offering, being very, she has a generous offer. Tell us a little bit about how people can get your one-on-one time, just to.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up here on the laptop so I can put it in the chat.
And Paral, I'm gonna make sure Julie hears this question, so hold tight.
Yeah. And also with my vision stuff, I kind of do stuff a little differently.
I want to just focus on that, Julie, because I wanted to mention this. Grief with, it's like when we lose folks, or we lose beings that really matter to us, when we lose animals, it's like our bodies know how to process that kind of loss. Like Julie mentioned, she would notice if she was sad and she'd cry, right? And I think around, grieving over the loss of our animals, it's not that much different from humans. Like David White has a poem that I've always loved, and it's like this with my dad, because, it's not like, and this, right, when you've lost pets and people, it's not linear. Grief is not linear. It's not like you just are done with it, after 4 days, like Julie mentioned.
That doesn't look right.
I think, it's like a Facebook link.
That doesn't look right. Let me try again. Just keep talking. I'll just try again.
But it keeps like, all I can say is like the way it has been with my dad, for example, is like it's like an alive thing, grief. And David White talked about it being like a well. And he said, those who will not slip beneath the well of grief, those who will not slip beneath the still water on the well of grief. Turning down the still waters from a place that we cannot breathe. We'll never know the secret waters cool and clear from which we drink, nor find the lost coins who were thrown there by folks who wished for something else. It's like, feel it. There's so much around like, oh, I shouldn't still, or whatever, it's like, no, like, it's like this, the body knows how to heal. And part of the healing process is like, letting yourself cry when you need to cry. Or, if it strikes you that you miss the tap, tap, tap of the paws on the floor, let yourself recognize and feel that. There's no shame in grief. And, just trusting that, I think is letting yourself have your big feelings. There's nothing wrong with your big feelings. Are you looking for it there, Julie? Oh, one new message. Let's see. It's like a Facebook link, but let me see.
Yeah, but it works. So
okay, so I'll look at that, but I want you to Param has this.
Yeah. So the reason it says Facebook is because I copied it off of my Messenger to put it in here. My MacBook's 10 years old, so my Calendly doesn't work on it on the laptop.
You will get a link. Yeah, if you click that link, it takes you to her Peaceful Pet Zoom, and she gives you, she does a free one with you, and so you kind of have a feeling for what, and if you really wanting her support with you know, with this process, you can, you know, it works. Yeah, good. Anna says it works because she clicked it, and it worked for me too. Thanks, Anna. But let's go to Param. And he says, I have been worrying because the vet said she doesn't have long now. So Param's been worrying because the vet said she doesn't, that Winter doesn't have long. So what, yeah, so animal, so Julie's gonna.
Okay, so here's the first thing is I'm going to do, and this is a little secret. So I trained to work with humans, right? When I found out I couldn't see spreadsheets, I said, well, what can I do with my eyes closed? I can do things. So I trained in Chicago, Austin, Switzerland to work with humans. So I usually work with the human first before I work with the animal. Although I do tell people, unless there's an animal connected, I don't work with only humans. Okay. So here's the thing. The first thing I'm going to do, Param, is if you're willing to uncreate and destroy what's holding up this distractor implant of death. Right, wrong, good. Are you willing to destroy that? What's holding up that distractor implant of death? Param?
What is that?
So it's my point of view, and part of my training, that there are 16 or more distractor implants that are put in us. Fear is one of them. Death is one of them. Guilt, shame, blame, fury, business is one. Sex is one. Relationship is one. So it locks us into these parameters, right? And when we destroy what's holding up the distractor implant in a certain situation, then the emotional charge goes poof, gone. Like fear of abandonment, which I've had. If I destroy and uncreate what's holding up the fear and fear of abandonment, I just have abandonment. I'm like, well, I'm an infinite being. I really can't be abandoned. Somebody makes a choice to go somewhere else. It like takes the emotional charge away. So we do this with death. So we uncreate and destroy what's holding up the distractor implant of death surrounding Winter. And the thing I said under my breath is like 32 pages of energetic processes. Like I said, I trained to work with humans first before I made the switch to work with animals. Okay. Because the vet is playing on that fear and dread of death. And fear is a distractor implant, death's a distractor implant. So if we take the emotional charge away from them, we're like, oh, okay, Winter is probably going to drop her body soon. And then what is soon? We don't even know what soon is. So like every day is a gift, right? Right, Param?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because with my 3 that I recently put down within the last 4 years, every day was a gift because I didn't know when it was tree time. And she'll tell you, if you ask her, is it tree time? She'll tell you. My Chico finally he's like, no, I have more work to do. I have more work to do. And one morning I said, is it tree time? And he said, I think maybe it's tree time. And then I got in the car and I called the vet from the car and I'm like, okay, today's the day. She'll tell you. It'll oftentimes be where you can't find her in the house, or she's gotten outside and she's not really an outside cat. It'll be those times because they're trying to literally get to a tree so they can drop their body, because it's not their normal way to go to a vet to drop their body, but it's how we do it, you know. Yeah, she'll tell you. And she's not, in my point of view, death is just an implant, an idea. She's transitioning, that's all.
Does she feel our connection?
Yeah. She said, he's my guy. He's my guy. And that was my Chico. He wouldn't let men near me. I'm heterosexual. He would like bite their toes of their shoes, like rip the leather right off the toe of the shoe. Because I was his lady. That's my lady. I'm her guy. So Winter said, that's my guy. I don't know if you have anybody in your life, but Winter is. Are you going to drop your body soon? She said, I don't know. Maybe. Does she have, I'm not really feeling any pain.
She's in stage 4 renal failure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
yeah, there's a lot of health stuff, not eating enough. She has to get, you have to give her subcutaneous fluids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Ozzy had
yeah.
that. Holly's
Yeah.
Ozzy. Yeah. Yeah. Another cat. Yeah.
Is that helpful at all, Param? Just the
Thank you.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, I mean, it's a little crazy because I've been starting a new job, but at the same time, finding that I'm losing my cat at the same time. It was like, sort of like on some level you get a blessing, but then on another level, it was like, I thought we were going to share this, you know what I mean? I thought like I wanted us to have this thing together, this new life together, this new job together,
Oh, and you will have it together. She won't be in her body though. And I get it. I miss my Chico used to sleep behind my knee. I could feel his butt. And I would love, sometimes I'd be in bed on Saturday till 2 p.m, but he and I would sleep butt to butt. And I love sleeping butt to butt with my dog. And I would get out of bed. So I get it.
So, and it's like it's necessary and okay to grieve that, like the physical loss, the physical loss is real, and like Julie said earlier too, I'm like, yeah, every day, it's like every day is a gift with Winter. You're her guy. That makes so much sense to me. I think, knowing what I know of Winter, I'm like, that sounds like something she might say. I want to just,
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
anyone else have like just a question? We're going to come to a landing place in our time here with Julie. If anyone else has a question for Julie, also, I would love for you to put into the chat, what's a takeaway? What's anything that was helpful from this masterclass, from this like kind of exploration of a different perspective? So let's just kind of take a moment together here to take a nice deep breath in. And yeah, go ahead and if anyone has a question, they can put it in the chat or a takeaway as we start to come to a landing place.
So what I put is your animal will tell you what to do to heal. Just listen. And that sounds crazy, I know, but my Chico would tell me to color. And some of you know, like I was an accountant, not an artist, but like this is some from.
This is great, Julie. Like Anna says, I love how Julie said they're still here. So I'm so happy because I wanted that to be a takeaway. I find that to be, the way we perceive death. I get it. There is a very real death when people die. Like I really do miss my dad. Like I miss his voice. I miss and we had a very, very, very complex relationship. But there's also, because of this aspect of our, like the spiritual connection, we can continue to even deepen our relationships with those we've loved that have passed on. Pearl, my takeaway, no matter what, she's okay. Yeah. This sense that, and this remembering I wanted you to have, that Julie helps us remember too, is that death is only, the death of the body is like, it's just the death of the body. And what if, what if, right? Like, what if there's more, than what we can perceive, right? Through this body, like our 3-dimensional kind of perspective. Thank you. Yes, I feel Marley with me now. I feel more complete, that it's not just me who feels that way. Good, Deborah. The empty space we feel may be an absence of pain. Yeah, every day not to be squandered, Tina says. Each day is a gift with my animals, young and old. No day is guaranteed to any living being. Yeah, good. Awesome. All right. Anything else, Julie, that the animals want us to know before we land? Thank you so much. You're welcome, Deborah.
Okay. So Chico's got something to say. He just came in and he said, it's a soap opera like Mama's stories. I like watching my stories. He's like, it's a soap opera and you didn't write it. So you don't know what's coming next because you're not the writer. So your relationship with your animals, your household, that's what it is. You're in a soap opera and you didn't write it. See what a character he was is.
And you can play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like that's the coolest part. It's like, you know, if you're brave enough to wake up, you can play. Right? If you can wake up, and that's what our practice is. It's a continual kind of waking up, right? Out of the trance of disbelief and unworthiness into the mystery that is here and now. Open your eyes. Like we can all do this and look around and like it's happening right now. This mystery right now. What are we going to create today in the next moment? With ourselves, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationships with the beings that are still here with us. What are we going to create today?
Right. Like if you have 12 hours left with your pet, what are you going to do?
Yes, I love that as a takeaway, right? Like, it's like, yeah, may it inspire us to deepen whatever that means for us. There's some relationship, you know, there's a relationship with your animal that could deepen for sure. What does that look like and feel like? And you know, the link for Julie is in the chat. I will send a replay out and include the link there as well. You know, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you so much. Sending you all so much love and many blessings. Julie, you can stay on. Mm-hmm. And everyone else, you can take yourself off mute and say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Julie.
And you did serve that cat, Deborah. Thank you, Prom.
Bye.
Bye, Candace. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Bye, Anna.
Hi, sister. Thank
Hi.
you so much. It was so great to see your faces today. And just wonderful. My pack is awesome because of Julie. And, you know, she's really helped us through some really fucked up times. And now we are, you know, we nary a day to be squandered, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, my littlest one is going to be here tomorrow as much as the oldest one. So it's kind of like I just, you know, every moment is a gift. And Julie has really helped me understand so much more than I ever could have. So just saying.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tina.
I hope to see you more too, Karina. That end. Because I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Feeling life good.
The prize fighter's coming back.
That's right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Holly, Harry, Penny. I think Prom's already. I never know how these machines work. Okay. Boop. Boop. Yep.
Good. Okay. Let me, awesome job. Let me just get you two